Caroline Dowd-Higgins. Thank you for listening to Your Working Life, my podcast series featuring thought leaders in the career and personal growth arena. You spend a significant portion of your life at work, so my goal is to provide you with tools, inspiration, and resources so you can enjoy your career and love your life. And I am delighted to welcome my special guest to the show today, Steven Steinfeld. Steven, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Caroline. It's great to be with you.
Oh, I'm really excited to dive into a juicy conversation, but I want to tell our listening audience all about you. Steven's unique and proven three-step approach to job search has led thousands of clients, workshop attendees, social media followers, and readers of his 5 job search books to the best and fastest job search results. Steven has given several hundred job search workshops at national universities and transition centers, and he's been on the career staff at 2 schools. And today we'll be talking about the challenges of mid-career professionals in conjunction with the publication of his most recent job search book, 3 Steps to Your Best Job Ever, Over 40 and Hired edition. Steven, welcome. Let's dive right in. How do you differ from other job search or career coaches out there?
Carolyn, I think you just mentioned it. I use what I would consider to be a unique 3-step approach, which has been proven over time. Same approach that I overview in workshops and I detail in those 5 job search books that you mentioned. In general, my approach puts much less emphasis on resumes and cover letters and much more on networking, LinkedIn, and informational interviewing. Another difference, I think, is that unlike many coaches prior to my coaching career, I had many years of direct first and second level hiring experience at major corporations such as IBM. And I also had the benefit of tapping into my wife's experience as a third-party recruiter. Also, I guess, unlike job search coaches, even including the ones who work for me, I don't charge by the hour. I work on an unlimited flat fee basis with my clients. So some of my clients call me every day. I work with them every day rather than spend an hour with them once a week. I found that this gets much better results than charging on an hourly basis.
Well, and as we know, it's a process. It's a developmental journey. So I think that makes a lot of sense. So tell me, what prompted you to write the newest book in your repertoire, 3 Steps to Your Best Job Ever, Over 40 and Hired?
Well, when I first started as a career and job search coach in 2009, it was really because we had that great recession at the time, and there were many over 40s, over 50s, over 60s who had been working, for 20 or 30 years, 10, 20, 30 years at a job, and all of a sudden their job went away, and they were at sea in terms of what to do. So that's how I got started, and what happened to me was that I worked at transition centers like the Chicago Transition Center, Career Transition Center, and I started doing workshops at universities, and then before I knew it, I was working at universities, working with MBA programs, working with international students. But just recently, I've come back to working with over 40s quite a bit because over 40s have been increasingly challenged by globalization, by automation and technology, and so I'm finding that I'm being contacted more by that group, and I've started working more with that group, and I've started doing more workshops with that group. So I wrote this book to be a companion to those workshops.
I think that's great because that particular age group is really ripe for opportunity. They bring maturity, they bring leadership skills to the workforce, and I know the millennial sector is the largest in the generational pie, if you will. But again, most of them are young, emerging professionals. So the over 40 folks have been at it for a while. So thank you for honoring that group. I think it's especially important. Let's talk a little bit, Steven, about why the why the traditional job search method of the resume, the cover letter, doesn't work like it used to. I loved how you said earlier, you have a very different approach. Why is that essential these days?
Well, yeah, traditional job search methods generally see job search as a numbers game. Send out enough resumes and you're going to wind up with a great job. But a recent study of 10 million resumes submitted to job boards show that strategy to be successful in landing a job less than 1% of the time, believe it or not.
Wow. Wow.
At least 85% of today's great jobs are achieved through networking. And my approach teaches how to get to the hiring manager with a recommendation for an interview, and at the same time avoiding HR. That sounds funny, but and people have a difficult time grasping that. But my approach really revolves around getting to the hiring manager through an employee, through an ally of the hiring manager, and avoiding the HR process. It's kind of like going around to the side door or the back door rather than trying to get through the front door when 5,000 other people are trying to get through the door at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's what I do.
I love that analogy because I think it's so true. You cut to the chase and go right to the decision makers, right to the influencers, and help your clients connect with those influential people. So, we don't want to give it all away because the book is extraordinary, and I know that our listeners are going to want to buy your book, but give us a whiff of those 3 steps and why they matter.
Okay. So discovery is identifying the best jobs to pursue so that you don't approach your job, so that you do approach your job search with enthusiasm and you don't waste a lot of time and energy pursuing jobs that just are not a good fit for you, not realistic, not the right culture for you to work in. And unfortunately, most job seekers skip that step. They skip the discovery step and they go right to the second step, which is the preparation step, which is updating your resume and starting to distribute it. So the first step of discovery is all about finding jobs that are a great match with your interests, your skills, your personal strengths, your education, your knowledge, your experience, and your values. And it doesn't take a long time to do that. And usually I can do that with my clients in about a week. But most people, as I said, skip that step. They update their resume and start just kind of sending it out and see what sticks. And generally speaking, that is a very, very poor way to get the best possible job.
I agree. It's putting that cart before the horse. It reminds me of the legal term discovery, right? You can't go to court until you have all of your analysis and all your research. So this is a very crucial phase.
Right. So once you've been through discovery, then you get to preparation, which is getting your resume, your LinkedIn profile, your networking plan directed toward the results of the discovery step, and then you finally get into action, which is mostly arranging informational interviews and job interviews, doing well on job interviews, and then ultimately negotiating the best deal for yourself.
Excellent.
But most people, very, very few people, actually follow a process. In fact, most people don't even know there is a process.
Well, it's fascinating. You and I know because we're ensconced in this world, but career development is a profession and a process. So thank you for making that clear to the millions listening today. So what about your results with this 3-step process? Tell us about that.
Well, I would say that I have remarkable results. The international students that I work with that have a very, very small chance of getting hired. The ones I work with have at least a 50% chance of getting a great job, very often getting a job that leads to a long-term visa in the U.S. But if I'm working with over 40s or recent graduates or MBA students, it's almost 100%, believe it or not. The only time that I'm not successful is when my clients, through whatever reason, can't really concentrate on following through in the process.
It is a two-way street, right? You need them to have some skin in the game. I absolutely understand.
Well, yeah, it's really them. It's really the client that's doing it, or the person who reads the book or goes to the workshop. I'm only there to coach them, to assist them, not to do it for them. And sometimes if they've really not put a lot of effort into the discovery process, as we discussed, they don't have the energy, the dedication, the enthusiasm to really get through the job search process in a successful way in a reasonable amount of time.
Exactly. So, Stephen, I have a question about LinkedIn. It seems to me that in some industries, LinkedIn is really replacing the resume, and that is the digital platform where supply and demand are connecting. So, what are your thoughts about LinkedIn?
Okay, well, one of my 5 job search books is LinkedIn. I'm a huge promoter of LinkedIn, user of LinkedIn, developer of LinkedIn profiles for my clients, and it's funny, Caroline, because sometimes I'll give a series of 5 workshops at a university, and there'll be twice the turnout for the resume workshop as for the LinkedIn workshop, and I always explain, hey, if you're going to miss any of my workshops, miss the resume workshop. It's not that important in the scheme of things. If you get to a hiring manager with a strong recommendation and a strong profile on LinkedIn, he's just going to glance at your resume. So LinkedIn, very, very important. And not only using LinkedIn, I always say that most people see LinkedIn as like being in the phone book, like you're listed there, but they don't really do anything with it. The idea is to not only use LinkedIn, but use it strategically.
I agree, and it really gives us a voice. The blog feature, the update feature, you can be so interactive on LinkedIn, and with 400 million plus individuals on the platform, it just makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, one of my 5 books is on LinkedIn. It took me 100 pages to explain all of the various ways that you can use LinkedIn to assist your job search.
So, Stephen, this is a huge question, and I will leave it to you to distill it in the way that you see most fit. But is there a single piece of advice that you would share for all job seekers, whether they're entry level or more seasoned? What's the number one thing that you want people to know?
Well, there's not one thing. There are many things. I mean, obviously, it took me 5 books to detail them all. For one thing, you need to be proactive. You can't wait for something to happen. You can't distribute your resume amongst your relatives and close friends and expect them to do something for you. You've got to get out there and you've got to engage with people who work at companies that are on your target list. Engage with alumni, engage with people who are former colleagues of yours at companies where you may not have worked in the past. But you have to be very active and engaged every day. The average job seeker spends less than an hour a day in job search. When really what's required is 2, 3, 4, 5 hours of networking and research and really implementing a plan to go forward. So that's one thing. Second thing is, and I've said it a couple of times, concentrate on networking with influencers who can get your resume in front of hiring managers with a strong recommendation. And the third thing I would say is a big mistake people make, and mostly because they don't go through the discovery process, is that when evaluating opportunities, not only look at the job, but look at the culture of the organization that you're thinking of joining. When people fail at a job, it's usually not because they can't do the work. It's usually because there's a mismatch with the culture.
I love it. I love it. Stephen, it's a fascinating time in history. We've crawled out of the recession, and unemployment is at an historic all-time low, and jobs are plentiful, and more robust jobs are available now than they've been in the past decade. Are job seekers, in a positive way, getting multiple offers, do you see, or is it still really competitive out there?
It's very, very challenging out there. I mean, it's a matter of getting a job or getting a great job.
Yeah.
It's like I tell my MBA students, you're all going to get a job. It may take some of you longer than others, but you're all going to get a job. The trick is to get a great job. And getting a great job is a very competitive thing and really requires that you do the kinds of things I'm talking about here today.
I also think there's a difference between a job and a career. So getting the job might be easier, but finding that great career fit can take longer.
Yeah, it's what I call, like, a lot of people let the job choose them. I always say, choose your next job. Don't let your next job choose you.
Yeah.
So what people do is like they're looking for a job, and their cousin says, "Hey, there's a job at my company. Come interview for it." They interview for it. They get the job, but it's really not the job that they should have. It's not the best possible job for them, and it's certainly usually not one that's going to lead to a long career. So. The earlier people start on their job search, and the more thought and activity they put into it, the more enthusiasm they put into it, which is why the discovery process is so important. Because if you're pursuing jobs that you're not really excited about, it's really hard to put the energy into the kind of work that you need to do to get a great job.
So true. So you are literally in the trenches, Steven, and I'm sure you see so many job seekers make mistakes. You could probably write a whole book about the mistakes that they make. To help those listening avoid some of those classic mistakes, give us a handful that you see regularly.
Well, the biggest mistake I've mentioned a couple of times already, which is skipping that discovery step. It is just so common to skip that discovery step. And it is so crucial to having a great result. In terms of other mistakes people make, they make so many. It's hard to even get started. They make a lot of mistakes in the interview process. They make a lot of mistakes in the informational interview process. Make mistakes in the way they use LinkedIn. Make mistakes in not really presenting themselves with an effective. What we call elevator pitch. I really hate that expression. I call it a value statement.
Yeah.
But when you meet somebody who might be in a position to help you, knowing what you're going to say, having that prepared, and being able to deliver that value statement in a genuine way is very, very important. But very few people take the time to develop an effective value statement and practice it.
Yep, practice is essential. So, Steven, let's zero in on your new book, 3 Steps to Your Best Job Ever, Over 40 and Hired Edition. So,
Right.
What specific advice do you have for those listeners over 40 who are transitioning or seeking new opportunities, because they are unique?
Okay. This is what I found, Caroline, that following the process is pretty much the same for every group. Now, if you're over 40 or over 50, you have an established network already, and you should take advantage of that. You have much more of a network than somebody coming out of college does, for example. So one thing is to take advantage of your existing network. But where most over 40, over 50, over 60 job seekers have a difficult time is the psychology of the whole thing.
Yeah.
I like to say, your problem is not on your resume; it's in your head. It's very easy to get caught up in negative thinking. The differences between the work I do with younger job seekers and older job seekers. That younger job seekers, they don't get easily discouraged. If anything, they're maybe too enthusiastic. Maybe a sense of entitlement or whatever. Older job seekers get caught up in focusing things like potential age discrimination or their perceived weaknesses, like maybe they're not really that great at technology. As I've said, a successful job search requires energy, positive thinking, confidence, determination to succeed. And negative thinking has a detrimental effect on all of those. So I've got to say, in all honesty, I spend a very large percentage of my time with my clients working on mindset issues, giving pep talks, reminding them of their strengths, reminding them that if they're getting interviews, the employers know how old they are.
Right.
They shouldn't, it's very easy to get somebody's age. It's very easy to look at their resume and have a pretty good idea of how old they are. You just kind of need to put that aside. I spend a certain amount of time in this book talking about mindset issues and how to stay positive and confident and continue moving forward and not get discouraged.
So, Steven, how can we follow you online and buy your books? You are prolific in the content that you put out into the world. How can we find you after the show?
Well, you can reach me at steinfeldcoaching.com. You can see all my books on Amazon and Kindle, although they're available at Barnes & Noble and other places as well. But the easiest place most people find them is on Amazon. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I always offer everybody a free resume review and job search consultation with no obligation. Uh, my passion is to help job seekers be successful. And what I try to do with them is to help them find their passion, like I'm passionate about career coaching and job search coaching.
Well, Steven Steinfeld, your passion and enthusiasm are palpable. I'm so grateful for your time and expertise today. Thank you for being with me. And again, the new book is 3 Steps to Your Best Job Ever, Over 40 and Hired Edition. Steven, I wish you continued success, and I hope our paths cross again soon.
Thank you, Caroline. It's been my pleasure.
And I want to thank all of you for tuning in to Your Working Life, where my goal is to help you design your career destiny so it doesn't happen by default. Career and life satisfaction is possible, and it's time to embrace what you love doing so you can do more of it. The show is now available on iTunes, YouTube, Podbean, and Stitcher. Leave a comment because I always appreciate hearing from my listeners. I'm Caroline Dowd-Higgins. Take good care.